what they've done with these vaccines, these injections, is the lack of trust that we have in our federal agencies. And when they discuss vax and all the things, we're just using some discernment. And, whatever your position is on vaccines, we were lied to.
Your organization has achieved a significant dent in vaccine mandates.
We didn't do the science. We didn't do the clinical trials. We didn't do the post safety. But one thing we know it's rare.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another engaging episode of Shot Callers. I am Carrie Bigford, Outreach Director with Texans for Vaccine Choice. And today we have two wonderful guests. We have Michelle Worton and Julie Woods, who are the founders of CANrise19, a Canadian-based advocacy organization for the COVID-19 injured. Both Julie and Michelle were healthy, functioning individuals before they received the COVID vaccine. And they are here to share their story of injury and what they're doing to help other injured as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle and Julie. I'm so glad to see you.
Thanks for having us, Carrie.
Yeah, it's great. I met Julie at the Follow the Silence premiere, and I think you were there also, Michelle, but we were like ships in the night.
There was so much going on at that
so much going on.
And honestly, it was so positive, irrelevant of why we were there. So yeah, there was just a lot going on, but I did understand that Julie had met you.
Yeah. The positivity was just the joy that comes with being others that acknowledge you. Right. There's been so much denial of the injured. Like abandonment really is the commonality.
It really is.
It really is. So tell me more about your story. Let's start with you, Michelle. What's your story with the injuries?
Sure. Yeah. So I was a regulated healthcare professional in British Columbia. So I live in on the far west coast of Canada. And so at the tail end of 2021, there was significant pressure and vaccine mandates in Canada. And so I was a dental hygiene practitioner. I had been for 20 years, and I own my own dental clinic as well. And so I navigated the pandemic with no exposures in my practice. I had never had COVID. And given that we work in people's mouths, we worked in a very highly aerosol-based environment. So, I mean, realistically, our risk was very, very high. And so, again, by the end of 2021, vaccine mandates were rolling out pretty heavily in British Columbia. And I not only ran my own practice and worked clinically, I also served on our regulatory body. So I had a very unique behind the scenes look at what was happening. And so initially the mandates were for federally and provincially employed employees. And then unfortunately for British Columbia, Bonnie Henry, if you guys are familiar with her, between her and Theresa Tam, the mandates were geared towards all regulated healthcare professionals in British Columbia. So that put me in a very difficult position. And for our college in particular, I sat on the board. And so we received updates in the middle of November that we were going to be expected to implement vaccine mandates for all of our registrants, which are over 4,000 by the end of 2021. And so realistically, that's what resulted in me getting the injections. So it wasn't because I believed in the science. I was observing increased transmission. Those that were vaccinated were still getting COVID. And so I didn't really view this as a vaccine, which historically should do both. And this was doing neither. So that paired with, to be honest, I had a substantial amount of coercion, exploitation. I had patients emailing my dental practice asking me for my vaccine status, if you can imagine.
I can actually.
And my staff. I had staff, and I wouldn't disclose that information, and I didn't. And so I received my first injection November 15th. I had dysautonomia, which I now realize onset severe cardiovascular symptoms, high heart rate, blood pressure, difficulty breathing. I really hoped that it was just because I was opposed to having to have this injection. And then ultimately, my second dose, which was in December 16th, nothing's been the same since. So within 2 days, so my first dose was within an hour, I had those symptoms. Second dose, 48 hours, severe vision impairment, blurred double tunnel, halo, hot spots on my legs, urinary incontinence, brain fog, brain zaps, And it literally just hasn't stopped since then. So we fast forward now to 2025. On top of all of those symptoms, the initial investigation was for MS, and I don't have MS. They did identify a lesion on one of the lobes in my brain. 8 months later, they identified a brain cyst, which I did end up actually undergoing brain surgery in the States to remove. So not only am I vaccine injured, but I'm a brain surgery survivor. And I also say if that was the least of my issues, I would be doing okay because I resolved very well from the conditions that were resulting in brain compression. And so I actually had complete loss in my right eye, word finding difficulties, memory loss. I literally was trapped in a body that I couldn't get out of. And my partner witnessing it, my 2 small children witnessing it. And so surgery was one solution, and that was successful. To date, I now have approximately 8 to 9 different neurological symptoms or conditions. So small fiber neuropathy, IgG deficiency, immunodeficiency, MCAS, POTS. I know I'm missing a bunch, acquired connective tissue disorder. And so I went from a thriving healthcare professional to homebound. My dental practice is sold. I've had to pay out of pocket for all of my medical care. Julie can speak to the difficulties in Canada. Her and I's care has been in the US, or at least confirmation of vaccine injury. As of May of this year, I finally have been able to see competent specialists in Canada, and I do have confirmation of small fiber neuropathy and MCAS in Canada with an immunologist and neurologist, but that's taken 3.5 years of literally begging for somebody to listen because I have 16 rejection letters to date from Canadian specialists. As soon as they see it's vaccine related, they want absolutely nothing to do with me. And Julie and I met through all of this adversity. We actually ended up both going to a facility in Utah, little did we know. And then, of course, Brianne, who's absolutely extraordinary and has kind of pioneered this endeavor for many of us, introduced Julie and I in the fall of 2024. And that's where CANrise rose.
Again.
That's where we are.
That is a tremendous ordeal, Michelle. I'm so glad that you've survived it.
Well, and it's challenging. And we actually just shared this last night. Julie and I were interviewed. So I have 40% peripheral vision loss in both my eyes. And that's getting worse as time goes on. I have extraordinary brain inflammation, and I'll find out if I have either signs of mini strokes, potential for aneurysm from blood clotting. I'll find that out actually on Tuesday. I have to go to Vancouver. So I live in northern British Columbia. All of my travel is in the south, and so it's very difficult to get to those locations. It's flights here and it's flights there.
Yeah.
And then I also have loss of feeling, pain, and temperature, electric shocks, hands, feet, brain, from my fingertips and my knees to my toes. And so I lean on humor inappropriately for coping. So
reasonable.
I'd make a super lousy dental hygienist right now. I wouldn't want to be my hygienist. So I'm sure the public is, they're probably sad to see me go as their practitioner, but they definitely wouldn't want me working on them, and I wouldn't either. But
Right.
I've had to say goodbye to a career I loved, a 20-year career I loved.
And the life that you knew before.
Well, and I was a backcountry skier with an avalanche
Yeah.
pack and hiking
Right.
and coached soccer and lifted weights, and I had no health conditions, like zero. Like I was like the epitome of health, and like Joel. So I'm medically retired. I own my own company. I don't qualify for any disability in Canada. I have no income and I have no pension, and all of our savings is gone because we have paid over $300,000 now in medical care. The surgery alone was, with return visits and whatnot, was $220,000, if you can imagine. The surgery itself was just about $148,000. So between selling my dental clinic and then my community was very generous. They raised $73,000 in 32 days with a GoFundMe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And private companies donating. So they offset half of the cost of my brain surgery.
That's
and
a
we
blessing.
still have spent $300,000, and medical care in Canada is free. It's not free. It's not
I love
free.
the quotations.
Yeah,
Very
it's collapsing.
applicable.
It's collapsing very
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Socialized medicine has a lot of struggles that aren't advertised but exist.
That's very
So
true.
that's Michelle. Julie, tell me about your story.
So for me, everything started when I was only 24 years old. So in June of 2021, after I took the second dose of the vaccine, I began experiencing numbness, tingling, and pain from my knee down. It went away after 4 months. So I ended up taking a third dose in December of 2021. However, the symptoms came right back within 5 days, except this time they were 100 times worse, and it has never gone away this time. And at this point, I have been told by medical specialists in the US that it will not go away. It is permanent, and this time, instead of working its way from the bottom of my feet to my knees down, it ended up over the course of 3 weeks working its way from the bottom of my feet to my waist down, and has since extended to my entire body. At that point, I also began experiencing cardiac symptoms. So before all this, I was a recreational athlete. I played volleyball multiple times a week for hours a week. And that is something that I can no longer do because of the symptoms. So after about 3.5 years of being told how stupid and incompetent I was in Canada and being told to stop wasting everybody's time because vaccines don't do such a thing like that. And there was no possible way that a 24-year-old without a medical degree could possibly know what they were talking about when they said, I'm pretty sure I have small fiber neuropathy and post orthostatic tachycardia syndrome because all my symptoms match what's being said in the online support groups. So we tried for years to advocate for getting those tests done for me in Canada. I have seen 23 different doctors here, all of which who have not been able to or just simply won't help me. So I also ended up traveling to Utah to be properly assessed by an allergist immunologist there, who was more than happy to see me and properly assess me and ran the necessary tests that Canada would not run. So it was confirmed up in Utah via biopsies that I do have immune-mediated small fiber neuropathy, as well as post-orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which was confirmed via tilt table testing. So for anybody that isn't really familiar with that, although I'm sure most people who are watching this do know what POTS is, but for those that might not, like for me, it presents as having like an extremely high heart rate and blood pressure. So even though I was an athlete, now I can hit heart rates of up to 140, 160, literally doing nothing, just simply sitting here. So those two conditions, which we suspected that I had, were confirmed. And then, like Michelle, I also ended up with what I call a bunch of bonus diagnoses that we didn't necessarily know that I had. But testing in Utah through blood work was also able to confirm that I have hyperglycemia, which is high blood sugar, and insulin resistance, as well as microclotting, which causes my brain to not work the same, because basically there's like tiny blood clots in the vessels that go to my brain. And then they were also able to confirm what's called mitochondrial dysfunction. So basically my body just doesn't make energy anymore, which can make me get very tired very quickly. So I went from being able to work full time between two jobs to having to give up one of those jobs because I was no longer to meet the requirements of the job because of my conditions, to only working 2 days a week now.
Wow. What is the legal landscape in Canada? I know that in the US, we have the PrEP Act protections and what's COVID EUA, and they've got the CICP, which is where claims go to die. What is it like in Canada? Do they have, I'm assuming, immunity protection and liability shield?
They don't actually. So interestingly enough, Canada doesn't have that immunity. There is, so right now we have 3 lawsuits that are known One of which is, so Dan Hartman, his son Sean was 17
yes.
and he's in Ontario, and Sean wanted to play hockey. And so he had gotten the vaccine unbeknownst to his family. His mom found him, and he had unfortunately passed away at 17 years old, although he did have symptoms almost immediately, and the doctors completely disregarded him. So there is a lawsuit against the federal government of Canada, as well as Pfizer. And Pfizer's unique in Canada in that when you do sue Pfizer, you have to sue Pfizer Canada, Pfizer US, a biotech, which is in Germany. I'm not exactly sure the progress of that lawsuit in particular. I know with the government of Canada, they said that they owed the Hartman family no duty of care. So basically, it was for the greater good. And so their son is gone, and Canada says it's for the greater good. Carrie Sakamoto is in Alberta. She is the most progressed case in Canada. It's against the provincial government and I believe the federal government. And they're approaching it, they're from product misinformation. So it isn't about product, it's about product harm, but it's also about the misrepresentation of its safety profile. And so
the fraud.
That's exactly right. So these cases, that's how they're approaching it. And then Kayla Pollock. So Carrie has Bell's palsy, and then Kayla's she's an incomplete paraplegic. Yeah. So she's in Ontario and she's suing Moderna. What we have come to realize now, though, with so similar to how you guys have requested Pfizer documents and they were trying to redact them and not give them to you.
They didn't want to give them to us. I wonder why.
What we've realized is that anyone that was part of the federal government and underneath the pandemic response, they all signed NDAs. And so we've just realized this when people have requested documentation that anyone that was part of the Liberal Party were not allowed to embarrass Trudeau. And so they signed NDAs so they can't talk.
And there's no FOIA process in Canada the way there is in the US?
I can't speak to that for certain, so I'm not sure. And then there was some discussion within all of that there was some kind of statement that maybe protected the vaccine manufacturers. I don't know if that's the case or not. Based on us not having immunity acts like you guys do, I believe there's still opportunity that Pfizer could be and Moderna can be sued and held accountable. Our vaccine injury support program, like your CICP, is an absolute joke. We have a 92.9% rejection rate in Canada.
Oh, like the CICP.
Yeah. And Julie and I both have submitted claims. We both are in the appeals process, and Global News finally, after 4 years, has recently released a 3-part series that is really exposing the inefficiencies, ineffectiveness, and not timely manner in how these claims are processed. And then there's also a significant amount of concern about where that money is actually going and why it's not going to the injured, because I'm not alone. I mean, Julie is working in a minimal capacity. I haven't worked clinically since 2023. My clinic is sold. All the money's gone. I've spent it on medical. I can't work. And I'm not the only person in Canada that's experiencing that. People have remortgaged their houses and they're on disability, and no one's here to help us. Like, they promised us a program that was supposed to help us if we got hurt, and they're not doing that. So it's challenging, to say the least. And I've questioned the vetting process of how they vet these professionals, these subject matter experts, medical panel experts, because my 3 medical experts were the exact same as theirs. And my 3 said yes, and their 3 said no. So that's curious to me. I mean, if anything, ask for a third party to oversee it for fairness, if that even existed.
Yeah, our CICP is a single special master-led program where there's a single individual who has full autonomy over your case. You can't present any medical records or experts without, approval, and it's a terrible thing. And the appeals process is a joke. I don't
expect to win. And the amount of effort the amount of time and energy that I've spent submitting documents and trying to get a hold of doctors, submit documents. And Julie, they're pulling a fast one on Julie. She should share her experience. It's unbelievable. Two of the medical panel experts agree that there's a so 2 of 3, there's a temporal relationship between my injury and my symptoms. They don't feel like my conditions are from the vaccine. Although Pfizer's 2024 product insert, their post-market adverse events clearly outline 5 or 6 categories, and I have symptoms that fall under 4. Or conditions that fall under 4. So that new product insert has been submitted to the appeals process as evidence. Yeah. But we're sick and we're tired and we're exhausted and we're fighting for our
you're not
lives.
able to fund your lives anymore. Like that's stressful in and of itself because it puts you into poverty at a time when you're not able to provide for yourself solely because you followed the advice of the government health authorities.
That's right.
Right? Like that's the thing is they assured you safety, and this is not the case.
No.
Yeah. Julie, tell me about your situation dealing with the court program over there.
Yeah, so in my case with the Vaccine Injury Support Program, one of the major differences from this program in Canada versus the CICP program in the States is that in the States, individuals have 1 year from the time that they are injured to make a claim. Whereas in Canada, under the VIS program, we have up to 3 years to make a claim.
So that's similar to our VICP. We have 3 years in our VICP.
And so for me, I stalled as long as I could because I had hope for a really long time that because it went away after 4 months the first time, that it was going to go away again. So for me, by the time I was assessed properly in Utah, it was getting fairly close to the 3-year mark. So my 3-year mark on my 3rd dose was in December of 2024, and I was assessed in Utah in October of 2024. I had my follow-up appointment in which I received the results from the testing that was done on December 11th of 2024. And so at that point, it was 10 days before the 3-year deadline. During that appointment, my Utah doctor told me point blank that my life was never going to be the same as before I took the vaccines. Of course, I responded to him that, yeah, you're right, because I have some pretty cool friends now that I never had before. So I tried to focus on the good side of things. I typically do. And although that's true, I do have some pretty awesome friends now that I never would have met otherwise. When I called one of those friends after and I told them what he told me and I told them what I told him, they said, you're right. You're not wrong. You do have some really good friends now. But they made it very clear to me that he was trying to let me know that my condition is permanent. Yeah. And the definition of the Vaccine Injury Support Program in Canada is that your injury has to be permanent. It has to be life-altering and or result in death. And so this friend made it very clear to me that the reason he was sharing this information was because both of them knew that I only had 10 more days to get an application in, and I met the qualification of the program and needed to get it done. So after I talked to them, I overnight shipped the application that I had signed for 9 months from my doctor. I overnight shipped it to the Vaccine Injury Support Program, and it arrived to them on December 20th, which is 1 day before the 3-year deadline. However, we got a letter in February, and they are trying to say that I am past the 3-year deadline because they're dating it based off of my 2nd dose, because I reacted to the 2nd dose. So I have written an appeal letter back stating that it should not be the date of my 2nd dose. It should be the date of my 3rd dose because the injury was not life-altering and permanent until I took that 3rd dose, at which point it's not going to go away. So I've appealed. We are waiting to hear back. But the other kind of roadblock that we hit, and I forgot to mention this last night, Michelle, that other people are dealing with is also the application form had the wrong address on it.
Oh, right. You told me that.
Yeah. And so when I overnight shipped it, it was actually shipped to the wrong address at first because the Vaccine Injury Support Program neglected to update their address on the application forms. And so conveniently, myself and many others that were trying to get our applications in right before the 3-year deadlines actually never got to the place that it was supposed to. So luckily, I had put tracking and a signature on it when I sent it because I knew that we were probably going to have a problem because I was so close to that 3-year deadline.
And
so
it's the
I
government.
was able to track it.
Yes, it's the government.
It's the government.
Yeah. And so
Get a signature.
I was able to realize like a couple days before that it didn't get there because it had the wrong address. So luckily I was able to call and they were able to reroute it, even though it was a couple days before the holidays. They still made it happen. It got there and it got signed the day before. So I have proof that it did get there within the 3-year deadline, despite all the roadblocks that they tried to put up.
That sounds despicable.
Mm-hmm.
Like that sounds like someone needs to lose a job over such a big mistake like that. Because this is your,
and
this is your only legal recourse, correct?
It is.
Yes, your only legal recourse, and the time-specific address that the government posted was wrong.
Yeah. And there's other people online that noted the exact same thing when it was like very close to their 3-year deadline.
I wonder how many have been denied because they didn't meet the deadline because of that address error.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
and
hoping
there's lots of Canadians that didn't even know the program existed.
Yeah, I meet Americans all the time I meet doctors too who have no idea. And I'm like, where have you been? Yeah.
So we're hoping one of the many doctors that I have seen in the last 4 years, I actually found out is on the Vaccine Injury Support Program committee of doctors. And that doctor, instead of telling me how stupid and incompetent I was, actually decided to tell my dad and I, after we had told him for half an hour how drastically my life changed, he actually told us that we should be thankful because, quote, other people reacted far worse than you did. So we know that at least one member on the medical panel would say that my case, should say, because they said to me that I reacted better than other people did. I still reacted, but other people reacted far worse than you did.
Yeah, that's not acceptable. So the two of you...
The other thing that Julie and I had shared as well, and I speak to this pretty frequently, is that the majority of us that are injured, our conditions aren't visible. Mm-hmm. So that's very misleading, right? Like I'm sitting here, my eyes they're so sore and my hands and feet are tingling, like I'm in pain and it's just constant. And so you can't see these autoimmune conditions. You can't see a lot of these neurological conditions. You can't tell that I can't see properly, or POTS or like all these accommodations. Like the other woman that joined us last night, like it resonated with me because she was talking about when she goes somewhere, if she goes out in public, she's scanning to see where she can hold on to or sit down. I do that all the time. Like I walk with a cane between my acquired connective tissue disorder and POTS and not being able to feel my feet. I can't walk and feel safe anymore, which is very challenging. And I rarely drive. And so there are a significant percentage of vaccine injured where we look well and we are not well in the slightest. And our lives are radically different. So to judge one person's devastation to another, injured is injured and permanent is permanent. It is. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
8 years old. Her life.
They promised you safe and effective.
They did. They absolutely
did.
Yeah.
And they did not deliver.
6 years old and I have no idea what I'm going to do with. I'm not worried. I praise God every day. I'm good. Something's happening. There's more, but this is not what I signed up for. I signed up for safe and effective, not sudden and unexpected. And nobody here for us to lean on. That's not what I signed up for.
Yeah. So the two of you decided to become a force to lean on.
We did.
Tell me about the beginning of CANrise and the wonderful things that you're doing there.
For sure. Yeah. Julie, go ahead if you like.
Yeah, so CANrise19 was co-founded by Michelle and I in late 2024. And kind of what our mission is to support individuals in Canada that were injured by the COVID-19 vaccines. And we aim to do that in a similar way that React19 is doing in the States. So we are looking to support Canadians physically, emotionally, and financially. So we have kind of kicked things off with the emotional aspect. So I had the opportunity to participate in React19's pilot emotional support group. And through that group is where I met all the friends that I talk about. We are still really good friends to this day, even though that group started in 2023 of April. And after that group, I had the opportunity to become their emotional support group coordinator. And so when I got together with Michelle and we kind of kicked things off in Canada, we decided that that would be a good place to start here, is offering emotional support groups to Canadians who are injured. So in February, we launched the first two sections, having two groups. One met on Wednesdays, one met on Thursdays, and we did 10-week groups. And we are just kind of entering the second round of groups now. This week will be the third week that we're meeting with this group. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the emotional support. In the short term, we are looking to become a registered not-for-profit in Canada. And once that happens, we are going to be looking into launching a care fund similar to that of React19. And so that's going to address the financial aspects. So we hope to be able to raise funds. And an important thing to know is that 100% of the funds that are coming into CANrise19 are going to be going back to the injured. Michelle and I and our other director and advocacy director are completely volunteers, as will everybody else in the organization. So 100% of the funds that come into us are going to be going to vaccine injured Canadians to help them with their care, because as Michelle and I can speak to, a lot of that care has had to happen in the United States, which is completely out of pocket for Canadians. So although we're not going to be able to cover the full bill, we definitely want to be able to put some of it so that Canadians aren't financially strapped by this. And then the last pillar that we mentioned is physical support. So we are in the process now of building a list of both medical and mental health providers that individuals will be able to access. It will be a completely private list in Canada because unfortunately the stigma of vaccine injury is still so high here that we don't have the luxury of physicians being able to say that they are willing to treat a vaccine injured patient, because unfortunately their license is still very much on the line here for doing that. So the way that we are kind of addressing the provider list is instead having anonymous submissions from patients who are going to be able to let us know that a provider helped them and who that provider was and how they were able to help, so that when other people reach out to us from that area, we're able to say, hey, you might want to try this person. So that's kind of where we're at and where we're planning on going.
Are you focusing on
another important factor too is that, so for myself, Julie was fairly fortunate to be able to find React19, even though it was 2 years into her injury, because I was a regulated healthcare professional. That came with its own hurdles. And so for me, beginning to speak publicly which wasn't until I went for brain surgery. I was scared. I was scared to lose my license. I was scared to be reported. Within the next week, my license will be revoked. I will no longer hold a practicing license, and I won't have to be concerned about anything in regards to a regulatory body. And not that anything that I'm saying is should warrant that. This is my story. This is my life. It's based in medical records. And it's the truth. So I actually didn't even know that there were other people like me until I met Julie and until I met Brie. And that was in 2024, August of 2024. I'd heard a few stories here and there, but realistically, I was alone. And so Julie and I reached out to Brie and I was like, hey, like, do you know if there's a Canadian program or organization? And there have been a few, but nothing that really was what I was hoping for. And I wanted it to be based in science. And so that's a real fundamental importance for us, is that we're scientifically evidence-based. It's peer-reviewed literature we provide with our members. Julie and I aren't contributing to papers, although her and I are looking forward to writing one together. Julie is not sharing her ongoing master's degree in counseling, which would be helpful if she would, because this woman is brilliant. And so we really just want to make sure that we can provide Canadians with the resources they need and that it's based in science. We are also the only organization in Canada that is a part of the CVIA, which is the Canadian Vaccine Injury Alliance. That's a global organization. And so I meet with those leaders, and that's anywhere from the UK to Argentina to Japan to Australia. We share our stories, literature, peer-reviewed statistical analysis data from our members. And our organization is also the only organization that doesn't request a membership fee. And so everything we offer is free of charge. And so we did not want to create any hurdles, big or small, for Canadians to be able to access resources.
That's awesome. I love that. I know we provide a lot of services free of charge also, because access can be a barrier and everyone deserves to have their rights clearly defined to them.
That's exactly.
So your provider list, are you seeking exclusively Canadian providers, or are you also developing a list of US-based providers, knowing that there's such a barrier in Canada? Like,
we would welcome both. I know that I have American providers that are open. So yeah, we're not opposed to either. We just recognize that discretion, unfortunately, is important. And we already know what it's like to not have access to care. So if the last thing we want to do is have those practitioners feel exploited and not be able to support the vaccine injured.
Yeah, our laws in Texas are significantly better than in Canada, and we never publish our list of providers.
Yeah,
we gatekeep it, and we keep our providers safe.
That's right.
And we will never expose the identity of those providers publicly, because it puts a target on their back, even here.
That's exactly. It's bad
and we're not going to thank them for their ethical practice by putting a target on their back.
Isn't that the truth?
Absolutely. And I think, that's an important thing for people to know. Like, if a provider is watching this, like, we will happily add you to our list as well. If you're willing to say that you will help the vaccine injured in Canada, whether that provider be in the United States or whether that provider be in Canada, it certainly doesn't have to be an anonymous submission from patients. We would happily take providers who would like to join our list as well, with them being able to have the confidence that we are not going to publish that list. And in fact, we won't even share that list via email.
That's right.
When people ask, we are arranging private one-on-one calls in which we verbally share that information, because we want to make sure that providers, whether they be from the United States or whether they be from Canada, if they're willing to help us, we want to help them by protecting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important in your trust building relationship with these providers to be able to give them security. Yeah. So tell me about some of the support groups. I know that when tragedy happens with humans, there is nothing like finding a loving and like-minded person who can hold that space for you. So tell me about the wonderful support groups you're providing, Julie.
Yeah, absolutely. So the support groups started, like I said, with React19 when I started coordinating groups with them. So we started with groups for individuals in the US and in Canada who were injured. We started out with 8-week support groups, but since then, people have shared that they really appreciated the connection and they got a lot out of the group. So we've since extended those to be 10-week weekly groups. After those 10 weeks, we kind of changed things over to what we call a monthly meetup, so that individuals can come together and kind of check in with each other. We start the groups off by sharing what we call a weekly win. So something that went well for everybody, kind of started off on a positive note. And, that can be something as big as had a good doctor's appointment to as small as the weather was nice. Like it can be whatever that person views as being something that's positive. Then we also offer the opportunity to share and kind of navigate the challenges of that week with the group. And a lot of the time that ends up being group members supporting group members and kind of sharing what worked for them with that particular challenge, which is a really nice kind of feature to have. And then each week we also have kind of a structured topic that goes with that week. So for example, it could be like the social impacts of vaccine injury or the mental health impacts of vaccine injury. So each week we get together for approximately an hour to an hour and a half. Everybody gets together and gets to kind of share for that space. We do require all participants to sign a waiver for the group that kind of goes over like the confidentiality piece because we do make it a point that we want to create a safe and welcoming environment for everybody to be able to share since it is a really difficult experience and it can be
It's
really
a traumatic
hard
experience. Yeah, it's a deeply traumatic, life-altering experience.
Yeah, exactly. And so we want to make sure that everybody's able to do that in a way that feels safe for them. We have since kind of branched out from doing groups that are just for the injured. And now we actually offer groups for family members and friends. Of people who are injured as well. So through partnership with React19, we are offering groups in which parents, children, siblings, friends, you name it, come together once a week and they get to kind of share their experiences of going through it with their loved ones. We've also launched a spiritual support group in partnership with React19 that's running for the first time this month. We're in week 4 out of 8 in that one. And we've also launched a young adults group. So for me, this all started at 24. And so we've started groups of individuals who are 30 and under that were injured. So we've got a group of about 10 of us that are getting together weekly and just kind of like relating on the stuff that young adults deal with in terms of vaccine injury. So it's something that started really small and it's growing. And it's honestly something that I'm really, really proud of, like where we've gotten. And I'm just looking forward to continuing to have it grow. Like I mentioned, I had the opportunity to be part of that pilot emotional support group. And for me, that has been the most helpful thing on this journey so far is being able to connect with the people in that group that we still talk with almost daily in a group chat. And these are the people now that I know no matter what is going on. These people, like and Michelle, who I've met after, I can text them, I can call them at any point in time. Heck, I could jump on a plane at any point in time and go be with these people.
Well, and I think that's so important to mention, Julie, and I can say the same. And I think that's like pretty substantial feedback that we've had from our members is like to actually feel heard and to feel seen. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to, everyone shows up how they show up. Some people don't turn their cameras on. Some people just cry because it's the first time that they've realized that they're not alone. We put on these faces, all of us, these brave faces, and all of us are really struggling and we try our best to show up how we can. And I would say for us being able to come to Texas, like that experience was extraordinary. Like for us to be there with like hundreds of vaccine injured and like I think Julie was sitting on the floor at one point because her heart rate was bananas and nobody cared. She just sat down. I was done. I had to leave the premiere. I watched the premiere. I didn't stay for the event after. Julie stayed. I couldn't do it. Like it was too much stimulation. And our other friend who I met for the first time, she's from Missouri. She walked me back to the room, ice cubes on my head, medication. And that's what I had to do. But nobody questioned it, and you don't have to explain yourself, and that's like it's exhausting. Every step is exhausting. Just to have a community where you are just absolutely welcomed, it's impossible to really grab onto what that means.
No, I get it. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself at the event. Our team worked very hard to create that event. So I'm glad that you felt the vibe that we were going for, which was
It was
loving community.
extraordinary. We are actually, so Julie's in Ontario, so she's in the middle of the province. And so CANrise19 paired with Ego Vision Agency, which is a film production company here locally. They've agreed to partner with CANrise19. And so we are filming on August 6th, Follow the Silenced and Why Can't We Talk About This? So that's following vaccine injured. So we'll be airing both those documentaries. I'm still waiting to hear from a couple physicians in Eastern Canada. They, as well as the director of Why Can't We Talk About This, have volunteered to join a speaker panel after, which unfortunately is going to be like 10 o'clock Pacific time, which is midnight their time. So I was like, I'm sorry. Physicians, so virologists and immunologists that are willing to be, that contributed to Why Can't We Talk About This? And they will be there to answer questions. And we just really hope that we can, not sure what the turnout will be like, but we're really excited to actually be hosting both of those documentaries in Canada. And all of the proceeds for that event are by donation, and that will be for React19, CANrise19, and Rainey Media. So Dean Rainey, I hope I'm saying it right. He's a producer of Why Can't We Talk About This? And that was all on his own dime. So, and he's taking an incredible amount of slack because of that. And so I know that comes with its own risk of choosing something. Unfortunately, that's this confidential, I can't think of. Thank you. But when our conditions became political and not a human issue, I'm not sure, but he was brave enough to take Michael's story and share that story.
Yeah,
So,
it's a personal point of frustration for me that this has become such a politicized topic when it's a human rights issue and it's a humanity issue. It doesn't, like, the idea that your political persuasion would determine whether or not you felt, favorably or unfavorably towards a vaccine injured person is bananas to me. Like,
it absolutely is.
Who cares?
Well, and what's even more concerning for me. So I presume that medical professionals, governance, and regulatory bodies are somewhat similar between Canada and the United States. I didn't write my U.S. board exam for dental hygiene. I probably should have at the time, now that I think about it, although I can't do it anyways. But our regulatory body here in British Columbia went through a huge amalgamation process in 2022. I was on the board at that time. And so we've now amalgamated 20 individual colleges into 5. And so we have one oral health college. So the original college that I was on the board for, so I served as a board member and I was on the inquiry committee, so I was part of the disciplinary hearings. That college no longer exists, so it's dissolved. That was the college that was implementing the public health order from Bonnie Henry that was supposed to be set in place by December 31st. Eventually, they moved that date to March 24th. And then after they realized how many registrants weren't vaccinated, they retracted that mandate. I was already vaccinated by that point.
For you, the damage had been done.
The damage was done. So what's happened most recently is our practice standards have changed. They implemented new practice standards as of June 30th, 2025. Under safe and competent care, it includes that all registrants have to abide by any future public health orders. Only in British Columbia. What's happening in British Columbia is absolutely outrageous. And the hardest part is I have no idea how many registrants actually know this. So if there's any public health order that gets implemented in British Columbia, they have to abide by it. And it's a super challenging topic. Am I sad that I no longer have my license? I won't. Of course I am. This is not how I intend to leave my profession. There's not a chance in this world that I would ever abide by another public health order. Never again.
Right.
Because what they've done with these vaccines, these injections, is the lack of trust that we have in our federal agencies. And when they discuss evacs and all the things, we're just using some discernment. And, whatever your position is on vaccines, we were lied to. And
yes,
there were clinical trial, injuries that weren't reported. And the federal agencies leaned heavily on the trust that the public had historically on vaccines, and we were taken advantage of. So the public globally did not have informed consent. Bodily autonomy was not available when they imposed these mandates.
Yeah.
Like I have a feed with Trudeau saying, I never forced anyone to take these vaccines. And yet on global...
I have a whole montage of health officials saying that back to back.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch. It makes me so mad. I want to throw things, so I don't watch it all the time, but it does
outrageous.
exist.
Yeah. So these are the new practice standards for any dental professional in British Columbia as of June 30th, 2025, that fall under safe and competent practice standards. Yeah.
That's bananas.
So what's coming is my question.
Something else if we don't stop them.
That's right.
Right? I mean, at TFVC, we've been very effective with our legislative advocacy. We've been equally effective with our community-based outreach. But every session is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the luxury of being able to sit back. We have to be very vigilant in defending, 30 million Texans and their medical liberty. Because even here, it's easily under assault. And we work very hard to protect our Texans. And,
I commend you so much on that. Alberta's trying. Alberta's the only province that's taken the lead on investigating their pandemic response and COVID vaccine implementation. They've changed the criteria, but that's the only province. And they had a investigation that was overseen by Dr. Davidson, and they published that. And the scrutiny that publication received from mainstream media was terrible. And there hasn't been a lot of information afterwards by their premier. Either way, I still commend her on her efforts, because she's the only premier that has actually taken a consideration of what the impact has meant long-term for Albertans. So similar to what you are doing in Texas, which I for. She's not perfect. I'm not. Nobody is. But
no one's perfect.
Trying. At least someone's trying.
Yeah. And it's a very uphill battle. I mean, the regulatory capture issue, I lack the language to describe what a big problem it is. It's huge. It's monumental. And it's going to be very difficult to dismantle. And for us, the PrEP Act protections were so unbelievably in favor of the pharmaceutical industry that it's been very challenging to take legal challenges. And, we just have to continue to attempt. I mean, we've been a part of numerous lawsuits, and I'm sure we'll be a part of numerous more in the future. And we're just like you guys are in Canada, continuing to try different legal pathways to get some accountability, to see where we can get a chink in the armor of those liability shielding. But
we're just watching the iceberg, the iceberg in Canada. We really are, from Julie and I with CANrise19 to the new discussion of VISP to really understanding how deep the pharmaceutical companies are ingrained in our federal government. We know that our media is funded by the federal government. So we know
too. Ours is funded by pharma.
that doesn't help the narrative. So there are a lot of challenges, and I mean, we're taking it as it comes. We're trying to be proactive. We're trying to turn these incredibly terrible experiences into something good. I commend Julie. I do the same. We, celebrate our small wins, whatever that looks like, because it's really the only way through. It really is. Our days are not easy, but we absolutely show up every single day.
Where can people learn more about CANrise and the work that you're doing to help Canadians?
Sure, go ahead.
So we actually just launched our website a couple of weeks ago, and the website is www.CANrise19.com. So people can access our website through there. It's got lots more information on the support groups, the provider lists, how to get in contact with us. But if anybody would like to reach out via email as well, you can feel free to email info@CANrise19.com, and we can definitely get you enrolled in a support group, signed up for the provider list, and put on a wait list for the care fund that we are putting together.
Wonderful.
Our socials are launched. They have been put in Instagram. Our X account has been shut down. I can't get into it. It was shut down by
It didn't even last 24 hours, did it, Michelle?
hours. I seriously can't.
I know
get
that feeling well. Yes.
Yeah, so I've been trying to get into it. I can't. So lots of it I just share on my own handle, which is
it CANrise? Is that the handle, or for
CANrise
Instagram and Facebook?
CANrise19. Yeah, CANrise19 is for Facebook and Instagram, and then X is myself personally. Substack is myself personally. Who knows if I can hack into X on our CANrise19 profile? It's challenging. We've got enough things going on right now, but anyways, we're really hoping that we'll be a registered nonprofit by the event in August, because then people can start donating and we can still start building that medical care fund, so we can help where the Canadian government is not helping Canadian injured.
Awesome.
Anybody can donate now. You just have to know that we won't be able to give you a tax receipt until we are registered at this not-for-profit.
Will it be retroactive in Canada? Because in the States, it goes retroactive after you've been approved. Is that the case in Canada, or is it not that case?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I can check with the lawyer and find out.
Well, then there's a tip for you to pursue.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So Michelle and Julie were healthy, functioning adults who felt coerced by their government to get a vaccine that was sold as safe and effective. And their lives have never been and never will be the same. It is so important that we come together, regardless of the individual choices that we make, to keep our governments out of our bodies and healthcare decisions. Mandates are not a part of humanity, not if we don't let them be. Thank you so much to Julie and to Michelle for sharing their story with us. Please look them up at CANrise19.com if you are a Canadian struggling with vaccine injury, and know that there is a place for you to feel connected and find a home and some help. Thank you so much for watching. I am Carrie Bigford, Outreach Director of Texans for Vaccine Choice, and this has been another engaging episode of Shot Callers. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Shot Callers podcast. Please, if you found value in this content, rate us and share the podcast with a friend. It's a great way to get the message out and to empower everyone to make informed decisions. Until next time, never forget, we are the Shot Callers.